story of my life as a gymnast is very unique. I started seriously competing in the sport at nearly double the typical age. I did not compete levels moving up one each year in typical fashion. In fact, I've trained in 4 different gyms, and each year I've competed with a different team. Like many of the greats in the sport, my story begins very early in my life. When I was little, I tried just about every sport there is, from soccer to basketball to skiing, ballet, you name it. When I was 2 years old, I was enrolled in gymnastics classes for the first time in a toddler program called Tumbleweeds. From age 2 through age 5, I progressed from a beginner tumbleweed to an intermediate to an advanced. There's honestly not very much I remember about this time in my life. One of my clearest memories, though, is being in a tumbleweeds class with my sister Anna when I was probably about 4, which would have made her probably about 3. We had these toy cows, and one day we brought them to gymnastics class. The entire class we kept shouting, "Moo, cows, moo!" We must have been really disruptive because after that, Anna and I weren't allowed to be in the same gymnastics class ever again. Once I was in kindergarten, I started taking preteen classes every Wednesday. I really started to discover my passion for gymnastics during this time. I did gymnastics wherever and whenever I could. Instead of walking, I would forward roll throughout my house, much to my mom's annoyance. During my soccer games, rather than playing soccer, I would round off all over the field. Okay, so one day at recess, a few years later in 4th grade, a group of bratty girls were playing cheerleaders in the grassy patch where my friends and I always played. My friends and I asked if we could have our spot back, and the leader of the bratty girls replied by saying that the only way we could have our spot back is if one of us could do a back handspring, and none of us could. So that evening at my weekly gymnastics class, I begged my instructor to teach me a back handspring that very day. She told me that you could not learn a back handspring in only a short day, and that I would learn them once I was on team. So that day, I made it my goal to make the gymnastics team. I began to pay more attention in gymnastics class, follow instructions, and do everything to the best of my ability. Later that year, when I was in 5th grade, all of my hard work would pay off. It was my 11th birthday, December 30th, 2011, and I was at an open gym with my family when the gym owner came up to me and told me that she wanted me to be on the gymnastics team, starting as soon as 2012 began. I was overjoyed. It was the best birthday present I've received to this day. In mid-January 2012, I began practicing 2 days a week as a level 3, which today is equivalent to a level 2 because there was a new level change enacted in 2013. I had a great time in my first few months as a level 3. I learned new skills pretty quickly, and I even got my mill circle on bars in my first week of practice. Plus, I made a new friend named Michaela, and she and I made up stories about unicorns that lived in the mats. Yeah, I was weird when I was younger. Anyway, that summer, while I was in the middle of learning the level 3 routines for my upcoming competition season, I hit a bump in the road when my little sister pushed me off of a swing, which gave me a bad concussion and a fractured neck. I had to wear a neck brace, and I was out of gymnastics for about a month. But on the day of our first meet, I surprised my team by being back and ready to compete. Since I had not practiced in a while, I did not know the floor routine very well, but fortunately I got to go last, so I watched all of my teammates perform their routines, and I basically just tried to copy their moves when I got out on the floor. Needless to say, I didn't score very high. However, once I knew the routines, I scored pretty well at my later meets, especially on bars. Soon I was getting ahead of my teammates, and I was beginning to get bored. I started teaching myself higher level skills like back handsprings and front handsprings. Once competition season was nearly over, my level 3 coach decided that instead of doing level 4 the next year, I would skip ahead and compete level 5. However, that would never happen because in early December 2012, just before the level 3 state meet, the owner of the gym that I'd been going to since I was 2 years old called my mom and kicked me off the team. While on the phone with my mom, the gym owner used just about every swear word in the book and said some pretty offensive things about me as well. I was devastated, and I lay in my mom's closet crying for the rest of the day. A couple months later, that same gym owner would find my Instagram account where she and her teenage son would leave threats and nasty comments and get a bunch of people to gang up on me. Anyway, about a week after I was kicked off the team at my first gym, I joined the new Level 3, old Level 4 team at an amazing new gym called Gymfinity. This new gym was very welcoming and I felt right at home, especially with my new awesome coaches Rachel and Nori. I did have a bit of a personality conflict with the Level 3 head coach though. But other than that, I was having an amazing time at my new gym. I met new friends named Katie and Sydney, and I continued to achieve new skills like front tucks, kips, back tucks, and front hip circles. In the summer of 2013, I would go to open gyms on Saturday afternoons where I seemed to learn new skills in a matter of minutes. By the time I began 7th grade, my skills were equivalent to that of a budding level 5, and I was getting extremely bored in level 3. I would always ask the head coach if I could work on something harder, or even if I could show her a new skill that I'd gotten at open gym. She would snap at me and tell me that if I wanted to do whatever I wanted, I should be on the Excel team. Around this same time, I started to become really close with my other coach. We seemed to bond over the fact that the head coach disliked us both, and it turned out that we had a lot else in common too. We were both ambitious, awkward kids who didn't quite fit in. She and I had a lot of good talks, and she helped me through a lot of struggles I was experiencing at home and at school. She became one of my very best friends, which was crucial at that time in my life because I only had 2 real friends at school. I had a fantastic competition season that fall as a new level 3. I placed all around at 4 out of 6 meets, and I continued to score extremely well on bars, my highest score this season being a 9.7. At state in December of 2013, I got 3rd place on bars and 7th all around. Throughout and after the 2013 competition season, I kept quickly getting new skills, and I was getting more and more annoyed of how little a challenge level 3 was for me. With the skill level I was at, I knew that level 4 would not be a challenge either. A few months later, my mom, my favorite coach, Rachel, and I sat down for a meeting after practice one night. Rachel gave me 2 options for the coming year. I could either compete as a level 4, but I would be coached by the mean head coach and nobody else, or I could join the Excel team. This was a very difficult decision for me, and it took me weeks before I finally decided to switch over to the Excel team. Besides for being on Excel, I also started practicing with the local high school team as well. On my 2 new teams, which began practicing in March 2014, I made lots of new friends like Annie, Madison, Amelia, and Vanessa. I had a great time as soon as I joined Excel. I could finally practice the skills I wanted to without waiting for the rest of my team to catch up. I got new skills like a round-off back handspring back tuck and a round-off on beam, and I got them at a faster pace than I ever had before. Around then, I set my most ambitious goal yet. I approached Rachel, who by that time I was so close with that I called her my big sister, and I told her that I wanted to compete 1 year with the Excel team, and after that join the optional team as a level 7. Rachel told me that this would be very hard to achieve. No one had ever skipped from level 3 to level 7 before. But if anyone could do it, she said that it would be me. After that, making level 7 basically took over my life. I had little over a year to get the skills required for level 7, and after that, in May 2015, I was to be tested by the owner of Gymfinity, and I would have to submit a video of my skills to the State Gymnastics Board to be petitioned into level 7. It's not an exaggeration when I say that I spent every waking hour that year working towards my goal. I would come to extra practices or open gyms so I could work on skills on my level 7 checklist. Making level 7 was all I could talk and think about. In fact, I was nervous, obsessed, determined, and I was even falling behind in school. In the midst of my quest for level 7, I also competed as an Excel Platinum during the winter of 2015. I had a phenomenal competition season, even though I was constantly distracted by thoughts and paranoia about level 7 as my testing date got closer and closer. Nonetheless, I placed all around at all but 1 meet, placed on floor at all but 1 meet, placed on beam at every meet, and placed in the top 3 on bars at every meet, including 2nd at state. After competition season, I only had a few short weeks before I was to test for level 7, and I was in extreme panic mode. I had almost every skill I needed for level 7, a back layout, a front handspring front tuck, a clear hip, a flyaway, a front handspring vault, and even a back handspring on beam. However, I lacked 1 skill, a kick cast handstand. I put everything I could into a kick cast handstand, coming to the gym 6 days a week, but I appeared to be getting nowhere. I was angry and discouraged. Soon, the day came when I was to be tested for level 7 by the owner of the gym. I honestly don't remember being so nervous or shooken up in all of my life. I could feel adrenaline surging through me as I performed my skills with literal tears of anxiety streaming down my cheeks as I prepared to attempt a Kipcast handstand. I was still unable to Kipcast handstand even under all that pressure. When I was finished testing, I had to wait a week before learning if I'd made the level 7 team or not. I was on edge the entire week. After what seemed like centuries, the week did pass, and I was sitting in the gym office again, this time with Rachel, my dad, and the coach who had tested me the week prior. The coach who had tested me gently informed me that because I could not quite Kipcast handstand, I had not been accepted to the level 7 team. I immediately started bawling, and anger seemed to rip inside of my chest. I felt like all of my hard work had just gone spinning down the drain. Rachel tried to comfort me. She told me that I'd done a good job and I'd made it farther than she ever would have imagined. My dad did the same. I was very upset for the next week or so, and after that I decided that I would compete another year in Excel and then try to be accepted into level 7 again and test in May 2016. I kept practicing and trying as hard as I had before, but I seemed to have plateaued and wasn't getting skills as easily as I had before, which was discouraging. That July, I attended an overnight gymnastics camp at Whitewater University, and I had a wonderful time. There, I met a new friend named Abby, and we stayed up all night just laughing. A few weeks after I returned home from camp, my mom and dad sat me down in my mom's living room. My parents are divorced, so the fact that my dad was actually allowed in my mom's house made me realize that there was something very important that they had to tell me. My mom told me that she'd made the decision to pull me from the Excel team. My mom was angry because she felt that Rachel had taken her place. My mom decided that I would not do gymnastics for a few months, and instead I would run cross-country on my school team so that I could assimilate into my new high school as I was coming in as a freshman. Gymnastics was my favorite thing to do, my passion. I knew that if I took such a long break that I would never be able to achieve my goal of making level 7. My mom would not negotiate, however, and I was crushed and I began to become really depressed. I tried my hardest throughout the 3-month-long cross-country season and occasionally still came to open gyms on weekends when I was with my dad. But because I could not practice gymnastics 4 days a week like I used to, I noticed that I was losing strength and losing skills, which made me even more upset. In fact, in October 2015, I went to an open gym after not having done gymnastics for almost 3 weeks. My muscles were so weak that when I attempted to do a back handspring on high beam, I fell off and broke my finger. This would lead to a long-time fear of back handsprings on beam. A few weeks passed and my finger healed up and cross-country was over for the year, so I begged my mom to let me return to gymnastics with Rachel and my team. My mom unfortunately said absolutely not because she and Rachel were still feuding. Instead, my mom insisted that I continue assimilating into my new high school and join the high school gymnastics team. I joined reluctantly, but I soon realized that the high school team was not the place for me. It was especially hard because for about the first month of high school practice, I had to work extremely hard to regain the skills I'd lost during my unwanted break. I eventually got back almost every skill I'd had before, except for my back handspring on beam, and I even got a couple of new skills like a toe shoot on bars and a cartwheel round-off connection on beam. But I seemed to be losing my passion for the sport. I feel that part of this was because I didn't feel like I fit in on my new team. The girls were all already very close, and they seemed to have different interests than I did. Plus, they were very popular, especially compared to me, so I felt shy and slightly intimidated. I did have a pretty amazing coach, though, who was also my science teacher and a huge fan of my favorite show, and eventually I even got to know some pretty nice JV girls. It's hard to judge the success of my high school competition season because the scoring system for high school meets is way different. Plus, there are no age divisions or levels, so the gymnasts with the hardest level skills usually win everything. I did, however, place 5th on bars at JV State. Something great about meets was that I finally got to see my friend Rachel for the first time in months. I'd forgotten that Rachel was actually also the coach of one of the rival high school teams. So when her team would compete against my team, we would just catch up on life and she would even cheer me on. It was a lot of fun. The high school gymnastics season was finished in February 2016. Afterwards, I told my mom that high school gymnastics really wasn't the place for me, and I begged her again to let me rejoin my team that I'd been gone from for nearly a year. My mom still refused, so I tried out for yet another gym. This gym was brand new and relatively small. In fact, my high school coach's former coach had only just opened the gym a year or two prior. When I tried out, I was warned that I would be the oldest on the team by 2 years or so, and this would have been a thing that would have bothered me before, but by this point I didn't really care. I just wanted to do gymnastics again. So, In March 2016, I began practicing with the Level 6-7 team at Middleton Gymnastics Academy. Soon, I began to quickly get new skills again like I had before when I was younger. I soon learned an overshoot on bars, a layout half on floor, and much more. I have even worked on getting back my back handspring on high beam, even though I'm still kind of scared about it. Now I'm working on giants and still trying to get that kick cast handstand. And even though I was older than they were, my new team has been very welcoming and I feel right at home now. Now I even have a job supervising open gym after practice. In a few weeks, I'm going to submit my videos to the State Gymnastics Board so that I can hopefully compete Level 7 in the 2017 competition season. Hopefully all goes well. So that brings us now to July 2016. Even though I still have setbacks and fears, I'm excited to keep doing gymnastics and see what the future holds. That's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment below, and subscribe to my channel for more gymnastics videos and other fun videos. Also in the comments below, leave ideas for videos you want me to do in the future, and I'll give you credit for the idea, in fact. So, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!